Hello, my name is Sally Bybee, and this is my BMT 524 Economics for Business course presentation. Today I'm going to talk about the fiscal cliff. You can follow along with my attached PowerPoint if you desire. First off, what is the fiscal cliff? The term fiscal cliff came about to describe the circumstances the U.S. government faced at the end of 2012. The circumstances involved a mixture of financial factors that were threatening the U.S. with a sudden and severe economic decline. This type of decline was termed a fiscal cliff. Okay, I want you to put yourself back 3 years to the year 2012, where our economy was still shaky from the 2008 recession. Now, let's look at the situation that created the term fiscal cliff. The 2012 fiscal cliff is actually referring to the end of President Bush's tax cuts from the years 2001 and 2003, the expiration of the Social Security payroll tax reduction, and the start of across-the-board government spending cuts. This mixture of higher taxes and lower government spending spelled out potential recession on the horizon, and the resulting situation was given the term fiscal cliff. So let's look at the background with tax cuts expiring. What this means for the average taxpayer, like you and I, is higher taxes. Now, we do expect to pay taxes, but naturally we don't want to give up more than we have to. So how high is higher? According to the Tax Policy Center, the average middle-income family can expect to pay $2,000 more in 2013 taxes due to the higher tax brackets. And the Social Security payroll tax that was temporarily reduced by 2% back in 2010, it was also set to expire at the end of 2012. To give you an example how that 2% would impact your income, let's take somebody who makes $50,000 a year. They would now be paying an additional $20 per week in taxes. That's another $1,040 per year out of your paycheck. Now, let's also look at the across-the-board government spending cuts that were scheduled to start the midnight of December 31st, 2012. During the previous year, the Budget Control Act of 2011 was signed into law by President Barack Obama on August 2nd, 2011. What this act resolved was the debt crisis, the debt ceiling crisis, by raising the debt ceiling by $40 billion. This is from $14.3 trillion to $14.7 trillion. And it did come with options for additional increases. It also laid out government spending cuts totaling $1.2 trillion over the next 10 years. This would have significantly reduced the federal budget deficit. According to the Congressional Budget Office, the budget deficit would fall to as low as $200 billion by the year 2022. Now that we've gone over what created the fiscal cliff to 2012, let's look at some of the choices the lawmakers had and how each of those choices would have impacted our economy. There were 3 options lawmakers had. 1, they could go over the fiscal cliff and let the higher taxes and government spending cuts happen. 2, they could cancel some or all of the scheduled tax increases and government spending cuts. Or 3, they can find a middle road. Let's look at option 1. If nothing was changed and we went over the fiscal cliff, meaning higher taxes and government spending cuts happened, the results would have been felt immediately. Loss of pay would be the first shocker, followed by the knowledge that government programs such as Medicare and even the defense budget were now operating on lower, tighter budgets. Unemployment would also rise while discretionary spending dropped, thus dragging our economic growth into a crawl. Whereas our federal budget deficit would decrease, our country would be entering into another recession. This was something that no one was looking forward to, especially after just going through the 2008 recession. Let's look at option 2. Lawmakers could choose to cancel some or all of the scheduled tax increases and government spending. If they had chosen this option, it would have added to the deficit. It would have also led to an inability to pay back our debt owed, and the U.S. would have been seen as a higher risk by investors. Again, this was not a choice lawmakers wanted to embrace. Option 3 involved finding a middle road. Lawmakers did go with this option, and they passed the American Taxpayer Relief Act of 2012. This act allowed lawmakers to compromise on tax levels by keeping the Bush-era tax cuts permanently for those people making less than $400,000 a year. And for those who made over $400,000 a year, the tax rate went up from 35% to 39.6%. The Social Security payroll tax reduction was not extended, and therefore the 2% was added back. The decision on the government spending cuts was moved to March 1st the following year in 2013. So the fiscal cliff of 2012 was avoided, for better or for worse. Some believe it would have been better to go over the fiscal cliff, while others felt the economy was not in a position to absorb this type of shock. However you feel about it, you can at least expect to hear the term fiscal cliff in the future anytime that budgets, taxes, and debts collide to threaten the U.S. with a sudden and severe economic decline. I thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoyed this presentation.